I'm Father Mariano Ruiz, missionary in the United States. Today, May 1st, 2024, we celebrate the memorial of Saint Joseph the Worker, and we take the Gospel from Saint John. Jesus said to his disciples, I am the true vine, and my Father is the vine grower. He takes away every branch in me that doesn't bear fruit, and every one that does he prune, so that it bears more fruit. You're already pruned because of the word that I spoke to you. Remain in me, as I remain in you. Just as a branch cannot bear fruit on its own unless it remains on the vine, so neither can you unless you remain in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. Whoever remains in me and I in him will bear much fruit, because without me you can do nothing. Anyone who doesn't remain in me will be thrown out like a branch and wither. People will gather them and throw them into a fire, and they will be burned. If you remain in me, and my words remain in you, ask for whatever you want, and it will be done for you. By this is my Father glorified, that you bear much fruit and become my disciples. Today we celebrate the memorial of Saint Joseph the Worker, which is a memorial instituted in the church in the year 1955 by Pius XII, both to give a spiritual context to Labor Day that is celebrated in many countries, and as a spiritual response to the May Day celebration in communist countries, where the meaning of human work and the relationship between the human worker and the state was distorted. Thus, the meaning of the dignity, beauty, and redemptive importance of human labor as part of Christ's mission of love, so that we don't perish but to have eternal life, is always open to us. Today is a day when Our Lady's Silent Spouse teach us the good news of work in God's divine plan, how to live in the light and work in God. Father Meschler meditates on the reality of Saint Joseph the Worker. Saint Joseph was a laborious man, not only in mental and interior work, but in the ordinary external and material work of his hands, with which he had to earn his living and support the Holy Family. His work represented the duty of his vocation and the will of God. It was inspired by love for his family, Jesus and Mary, and often by love for his fellow men and his noble desires to serve and help them. According to the fundamental principles of perfection and holiness, outward activity must spring from the abundance of the inner spirit. It is supposed to be the overflow of love for God and man. It is expected of man that in his outward works he should give more than he receives. Secondly, the active life of Saint Joseph was orderly and perfect according to the manner and means of leading it. He was not so preoccupied with external affairs that the care of his interior or the vigilance of his conscience or his union with God suffered any harm. His outward activity not only sprang from his inner spirit, but his inner life accompanied, ennobled, and elevated the active one by his thought of God and his love of God. In this way, his exterior life accumulated a whole treasure of the most sublime virtues. His inner life was enriched by the difficulties, the discomforts, and the sufferings that occupies the external occupations. This is indeed an important lesson of Saint Joseph that is teaching us today. We must all work rightly, and here we must avoid two mistakes. Sometimes we work too little. The error in this case consists in idleness, in the waste of time, in the lack of seriousness and perseverance in dedicating our life, our energies and our talents to the glory of God and the good of men. There is also a busy idleness, which consists in useless occupations, in applying oneself to matters that are outside of one's own vocation and state of life, and that they are of no real use either to ourselves or to others. Moreover, we must examine whether, after fulfilling our own obligatory duties, something cannot be done for the benefit and help of our neighbor, for the solutions of their problems, and for the alleviation of the urgent needs of our times. How? By engaging in good works, in cooperating with others, in charitable enterprises. However, there is another danger, that of doing too much. We work too much when we occupy ourselves with external occupations at the expense of our inner spirit, at the expenses of our conscience and the things of God. When we are so absorbed in external activities that the higher and supernatural motive and intentions are neglected, when we do our work without putting our trust in God, when we wear ourselves out like slaves and beasts of burden, and meanwhile lose all idea and trace of higher and eternal values. Work understood and performed in the true and Christian sense is for God and for the salvation of our soul. Is the duty and honor of man, the necessary condition of his right development and happiness for time and eternity. Therefore, work is meant for men, and man is meant for God. Work is not itself the end, but only a means to it, so that eternal work doesn't demoralize us. We should set aside a certain time during the day for prayer and recollection, and withdraw for a time from other occupations. Saint Joseph, as we heard in the beginning, is in this respect a very appropriate model, especially necessary for our present time, which too often and in too many ways worship work as an idol. Our saint, combining wisely and in the right measure the interior and the exterior occupations of work, is an appropriate example. Let us ask, through the intercession of our Blessed Mother and Saint Joseph, for the grace to give our life in order to reach, to get closer to God, and so that we can work for the redemption of our souls and the redemption of others.
Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed hearing the gospel and homily, I invite you to share it with someone you know who may also find it rewarding, and also to subscribe to the Catholic Voice channel. Please see in the description below if you would like to receive a text message for each daily gospel and homily. Please also keep our missionary priests throughout the world in your prayers. Thank you, and God bless.